Hello, faithful listeners. My name's Clay Thompson, and I'll be your guide once again in the fiction room. Today's prompt is brought to us from username LolReally123. Your pointless superpower is that you know how many people's lives you save with your actions. One day, at a Subway, you tell the cashier you want your sandwich on Italian bread, and you're suddenly informed that you just saved 5 billion people. As always, I hope you enjoy hearing these stories as much as I enjoy reading them, but without further ado, let's begin with our first story, written by Bertie Derps. Most days, a number flashes through my mind. It's usually when I'm out somewhere, after I've made a conscious choice. Push the button and wait rather than jaywalk? +2. Phone an ambulance when I saw that drunk guy asleep on the floor? +1. That time I signed a friend's passport? +16. They weren't always positive, of course. Once every other week, I might get a negative. That time I chose the cheaper phone contract? -4. That time I upvoted a thread about rice recipes on Reddit? -1. Last Thursday when I ignored the withheld number calling me? -4. I've never quite understood how it works, but since these delusions began, I began to name it karma. Good actions tend to lend themselves to positive numbers, while lousy ones seem more likely to produce negatives. I attended a neurology appointment to check this out, but I got no answers. I remember the +5 from making the initial self-referral, present and clean in the memory, like it were a butterfly drifting past my field of vision. The neurologist was a consultant called Miss White. She checked my vision, listened to my tales, and asked me to keep a diary of instances the numbers flick through my mind. She talked about synesthesia, suggested a scan, further study. She was excited, a little too excited, when I agreed to take the diary, and I gasped when a tiny +1 rose like steam from the diary. I saw it again, I explained. Just now, when I took the diary. I see, said Miss White, trying to retain her professional composure. What number was it? 1, I said. +1. Most of the time it's small numbers. Is it ever fractions? Zeros? I thought about this for a moment. No. I think it's always been a whole number. As for 0, I guess most things I do during the day don't have meaning. You feel meaning is important, don't you? I do, of course. Maybe it's the narrative I make for myself. She and I discussed how to write in the diary, and agreed to meet again in 6 weeks' time. Exhausting work, and time for lunch. There's a Subway knockoff sandwich store just opposite the train station. I'm not sure what it is about their food prep, but it knocks my socks off every time. There's quite a few customers at tables, but no queue. The serving girl was one I knew by face, with a hot pink lip piercing. Her colleague, the manager, was milling about grumpily. She ignored him and smiled with familiarity. Morning. What can I get for you? The usual? The usual. You know me too well. Large, please. What bread would you like? Unlike the veggie filling, I like to vary the bread and the sauces, depending on my mood. I looked at the types, deliberating. They all look good. I take a moment to look at the loaves at the back, and decide that of the ones she is most likely to grab, the Italian looks the nicest. The Italian, please. Large. She gets to work picking it up and sawing into the loaf with a knife. As she does, though, my brain sears as a number obscures my vision. +4,982,041,920. For a moment, I'm disoriented. I can't even identify the number. It's 4 million... No, billion. Nearly 5 billion. I try to capture the number in my memory. I blink and it's gone, but an afterimage feels like it's burned into my retina. I drink it in. Try to tap the number discreetly on my thigh as though it's a phone or a calculator, hoping the muscle memory in my fingers will help retain it, and... "Shanae, I'm going on my break now, alright?" It was the manager, looming over her shoulder as she shoved diced olives into the Italian. She was a pleasant enough lady, Sasha if memory served, but clearly disillusioned with her job. She already had a pack of cigarettes in her hand. "Sure," Shanae said, putting my order in the oven. "Oh, just a thought before you go. Could you maybe get some more Italian out of stores, please? We're running a bit low." Sasha's eyes flicked over to the oven and the counter, before stalking back the way she came. Shanae took her gloves off and asked me about sauces. Spicy onion. No numbers. It wasn't until I sat at a vacant table by the storefront that I got the book out and wrote the number down as best I could. Almost 5 billion. This had better be a good sandwich. I looked up as Sasha went outside for her break, hair pulled into a bun. I watched her step outside into the path of a suited man, who apologized profusely, then stared agog. "Sasha Ickneld?" She looked at the man, trying to place him. After a few seconds, she beamed. "Daniel Matthews? I wouldn't have recognized you with that beard. How are you doing? I haven't seen you since school." I took a moment to eavesdrop on their conversation, how he was heading to the train station to go to some kind of expo show. Sasha sounded a bit embarrassed about working in the service industry, but this Daniel, he didn't seem to mind. In fact, he suggested they sit down and talk for a bit, as his current business project involved food waste. I listened to two old-school friends plan to put the world to rights, but by the time the global food crises were averted a decade later, I had no memory of that day, save for a large number in a tiny diary. I am absolutely a believer in karma. Good choices will lead to good, and bad choices will lead to bad, and I feel like this is a very good example of what karma is. The smallest of decisions can have the biggest impact on something you don't even know. So, very well done, and props to you. And now, let's move on to our second story, written by Penguin347. "We're out of flatbreads." "Damn," I mutter. "What do you have?" "Italian." "Just Italian?" "Yeah." I check my watch. There's only 15 minutes left on my break. Whatever, Italian it is. 5 billion. The voice states it plainly. It comes sometimes, just random numbers. 1, 11. I don't pay too much attention to it, but recently it's been speaking almost every time I do something. "Sorry about this," the teenager says. "But it's Subway. What can you expect?" Eat fresh, right? I walk out. Mark is there, sitting on the sidewalk with his sign. He looks a bit cleaner than normal today. "Sorry, Mark. I don't have any change today." "That's okay. Enjoy your sandwich anyways." "I'll try to." "You don't sound too happy about it." "Yeah, all they had was Italian. The worst." "Oh, the worst. When I was a kid and my mom would give me money for lunch, I would run to the pizza parlor and get a pizza sub on Italian." "A pizza sub? That sounds good." "It is," he says wistfully, looking at my sandwich. I look down at it. It does look long, at the least, and I can only imagine what a day is like for Mark, watching people walk out with their sandwiches, waiting so he can cobble together just enough change to get his own. "Here," I say. "I'll eat a big dinner." "Oh, no, I can't do that, kid. You need to eat." "So do you. Really." I drop it in his lap. He looks at me and smiles. "Thanks, kid. You don't know how much that means to me." I nod and walk away. Soon the incident fades away from my memory. Just another lost coin in the fountain of my mind. "Now we have Earth," the chairman says. "Earth is an interesting case. They are headed for extinction in 12 cycles, so we could wait to attack, but by then it may be depleted." "Their depletion rate is that rapid?" "The prevailing species there seem to be amongst the most careless of all we have observed. Agent 614, what did you observe there on your mission? Agent 614 nods.
The depletion rate is as we projected. The species is careless and wasteful, and quite dim as well. But...
What? Spit it out, 614.
They seem to rank high on the compassion scale. I know that doesn't matter much, but...
Agent 614 pauses, reminiscing on the sandwich.
I would recommend we don't attack.
The chairman looks at 614, wondering what has gotten into his most ruthless agent. All right then. Earth will be spared for now. Like I said, the smallest choice can have the biggest impact. That's really all I have to say. No other words are needed. Very nicely done, Penguin. Very nice. And now, dear listeners, we must unfortunately bid you farewell once again. Thank you all so much for tuning in to The Fiction Room. If you enjoyed today's stories, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It would very much help us. And wherever you are in the world right now, be safe, be well, and we'll see all of you next time.